Prior to becoming Alabama's senior senator, Tommy Tuberville was a fairly successful football coach at Auburn University. He translated that experience into a new gig in the United States Senate. How he managed to pull off any of that is a marvel, considering that shortly after winning that Senate seat, he told reporters that the three branches of government are the House, the Senate, and the executive. Alabama's constitutional scholar and insurrectionist enabler is currently responsible for holding up nearly 400 military nominations and promotions due to his opposition to the Pentagon's abortion travel policy. At first, he probably thought that it would score him political points and media attention, which it did. But now, with all of the issues that we're facing around the world, people are sick and tired of the theatrics. Sources within the Department of Defense are holding him personally responsible for the Marine Corps chief's hospitalization due to a heart attack. General Eric Smith had been filling both the #1 and the #2 Marine Corps posts from July until he was finally confirmed as commandant in September. He was part of the Tuberville blockade. A DOD official told Politico, "I cannot help but think, because at the end of the day, Eric Smith is a human, that Tuberville's unnecessary stress that he's put on the situation where you don't have a backup has added a level of complexity and danger to an already bad situation." You know who else is sick of Tuberville's BS? Republicans, who led an effort to move nominations forward just last night.
You've just denied this lady a promotion. You did that. No matter where you believe it or not, Senator Tuberville, this is doing great damage to our military. I don't say that lightly.
What are we doing to these military men and women? Politics are being injected right here, today.
We're going to look back at this episode and just be stunned at what a national security suicide mission this became.
And they kept up their attacks this morning.
Senator Tuberville says there's no risk to the military.
There absolutely is risk to the military. And that's maybe because he hasn't served in uniform. He doesn't understand how the promotion system works.
It's a dangerous time. We need to field our entire national security team, including these military officers who deserve their promotions.
If we normalize this and every senator follows the lead of Senator Tuberville, you'll ruin the military.
This afternoon, the Senate was able to confirm 3 critical nominations, but 300 remain blocked. Democrats are considering tweaking Senate rules for the rest of this year to allow a process for the Senate to pass multiple military nominations together. It would not apply to other nominations, and it's something Republicans do not like. Joining me now is Paul Rieckhoff, founder of Iraq and Afghanistan Veterans of America and host of the Independent Americans podcast. Paul, good to see you. It is pretty astounding that Tuberville is still keeping this up. But I want to play a piece of sound for you because, he keeps saying things like, I'm going to keep this up because I have principles and all they have to do is just change their policy and I'll stop. But I want you to listen to what he said in August on the Kimberly Guilfoyle podcast.
I don't care if they promote anybody, to be honest with you. We've got 44 four-star generals right now. We only had 7 during World War II. So I think we're a little overloaded to begin with.
And there you have it. He doesn't care if anybody gets promoted. Your thoughts?
What we're overloaded with is stupid senators. I mean, this man is radical. He's racist, he's reckless, and he's a political suicide bomber. He is maybe the most dangerous member of the Senate right now because of all those reasons. I mean, he's willing to go in there and blow it all up over his personal agenda, which is to try to deny reproductive rights to women in the military, which is absurd in its own right. But by linking those two, he's just kept this going for months and months. And it's about damn time somebody took him on. I mean, I've been talking to you about this for months, a lot of whining, a lot of campaigning, and now Democrats and Republicans are finally taking them on, and I think it's hitting them. Dan Sullivan is a Marine Corps veteran himself. Joni Ernst has served in the military, and Tuberville's so bad and so radical and so stupid. He's making Lindsey Graham look good. I mean, that's what's happening right now because it's just so ridiculous what he's done, and it's not just hurting our military. It's hurting our allies. It's hurting Ukraine. It's hurting Israel. It's hurting everybody else who depends on the American military right now.
You know, the Senate Armed Services Committee Majority Staff put together a report that I have here in front of me, and it's really kind of shocking when you go through it and you read, you're talking about 20 officers selected that have to assume duties of their higher grade officers, so people have to do multiple jobs. There are kids who can't be enrolled in school because their parents don't know where they're going to live. It also pointed out that if Tommy Tuberville got his way on the policy for abortion travel, members of the United States military would actually have fewer rights than federal prisoners. Your thoughts?
Yeah, that's right. I mean, that's the world that Tommy Tuberville wants to create. He is a radical, and he's been backed up by about 10 other members of the Senate that I've talked to you about before. I've called them the Confederate wing of the GOP. They want to drag our military back to the 1800s. They don't want women to have any rights. They don't want there to be any diversity. They don't want us to be strong and ready to defend our enemies. And they've decided that the military is going to be the place to wage their culture war. And I think the Republicans have finally had enough, in part because they see it's bad politics. I think they understand it's hurting the GOP. I think it's going to hurt them in a general election. I think the Democrats have underplayed this. I wish they had hit them harder on this more often. But now it's come to this. Last night, Joy, it was almost like a Saturday Night Live skit. He just kept standing up saying, I object, I object. 61 times he objected to honorable American heroes being brought before the Senate. And he's not going to stop. So they're going to have to run him over. They're going to have to go around him. And I hope reasonable Republicans will run against him. This guy is an embarrassment, not just to Alabama and the GOP. He's an embarrassment to the entire country.
Yeah, I don't have a reasonable Republican to play for you right now, so I'm just going to play Josh Hawley instead. Here's Josh Hawley.
What should the Republican leaders do?
Like actually get a solution? I mean, what are they good for? I mean, what's Mitch McConnell doing here to try and resolve? I don't see the Democrats doing this on the floor. I mean, I just think it's embarrassing that he allows us to go forward on the floor.
Now, a broken clock is right once a day, and, Josh Hawley's an insurrectionist, but he ain't wrong there, because one does wonder, where is Mitch McConnell? There's a sense in which it seems that he's lost control of his caucus. He's supposedly the sort of master manipulator of his caucus. Why can't he stop this?
Because he doesn't want to, or maybe because he's a coward, or maybe he doesn't want to prioritize our national security. I don't know why, Joy, but I think he's misplayed this politically. He's endangered our national security. And now we've got families around the globe that can't move, and we've got the Marine Corps commandant who was driven into the ground. He worked so hard he had a heart attack. I mean, this is what happens when you ask hundreds of military officers to do multiple jobs in a time of combat. So we didn't have a Marine Corps commandant, and we didn't have somebody ready because Tuberville was blocking all the replacements. And this is why we've got Marines on embassies in places like Israel. So it's really thrown a political hand grenade in the entire establishment. And I think McConnell has misplayed it. And I think now he's got somebody like Dan Sullivan who's outflanking him. And I think it exposes how weak McConnell is, frankly, in his ability to take on his own party and to prioritize patriotism and our national security over petty partisan politics. That's very extreme. I think that's really important to keep focusing on. Tuberville is an extremist, and he has to be marginalized, and he has to be neutralized.
Yeah, it is. And religious extremism, and as you said, sort of this sort of anti-woke, go back to the Confederate era agenda. It's bizarre. And he seems to be getting away with it, at least for now. Paul Rieckhoff, thank you very much, my friend.